Hi, my name is Grant Suchandasathian, and I will be introducing the initial stages of my final senior thesis project for the Landscape Architecture Department here at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. I'd like to thank LADAC for all your help and our other faculty for reviewing our work, and hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you. RSVP is an annual concert series where theater, dance, and mixed media come together to create a unique multidisciplinary arts experience. This year's RSVP will be the 16th annual show, and for my senior thesis project, I intend on introducing a new emphasis on the spatial experiences of audience members. My goal is to create an environment where audience members are not simply watching a show, but are physically immersed and intellectually engaged in the performance going on around them. The nature of this show is compelling enough for me to take on as my very last project here at Cal Poly, even if it may not be what conventionally comes to mind when thinking about what the practice of landscape architecture is. I'd like to explore the parallels between the landscape around us and what we view as performance space. Whether we're stuck in 5 a.m. traffic, at a cafe enjoying a coffee in the company of friends, or simply people watching on a crowded street, stories are perpetually unfolding all around us, but sometimes it's difficult to capture in a single moment. Movement through space. Along with a lifetime of achievements in the field of landscape architecture, the late Lawrence Halprin is perhaps best known for his unique approach to design. As a choreographer would approach the practice of dance, Lawrence Halprin approached designing spaces as an analogy for the practice of designing the sequences of steps and movements in dance. He was very much influenced by his wife and colleague Anna Halprin, who happened to be a choreographer. And coincidentally, the design process he developed during his lifetime in design is called RSVP cycles, which is a thinking process adaptable to all creative disciplines. RSVP is an opportunity for me to implement the tools and problem-solving skills I've learned in the landscape architecture program to operate in different realms of design. This project is essentially a design-build project, so everything in my design toolbox, from design process to visualization to craftsmanship, will be employed from now until the show premiere. RSVP is completely different from year to year, and the show has gained quite a reputation for keeping all plots undisclosed until the night of the premiere. But for the sake of communicating a few design intentions, I will reveal that this year it is based around the rich flamenco culture of the Spanish Andalusian regions. To my benefit, I was fortunate enough to have visited Granada, one of its cultural hubs, for myself last school term. This year's RSVP will be premiering in the spring of 2011 in the Performing Arts Center Pavilion Hall on campus, which is the facility's 400-person capacity multi-purpose hall. While conducting site analysis studies, I've discovered a few interesting characteristics embedded in the landscape around the Performing Arts Center that I'd like to take advantage of. The first has to do with how user experiences begin to form as patrons gradually come into closer proximity of the performance space. While approaching the Performing Arts Center by car along Grand Avenue, if you pay attention, you'll notice that a section of wall along the tallest part of the building peeks its head out from around the top of the grade. Unexpectedly, we've stumbled upon a very site-specific peculiarity. Because of the building's specific placement in relation to the bend and topographic features of the road, this landmark presents opportunities inherent only to this site to pose as a temporary beacon of arrival for RSVP patrons. Perhaps a projection or light show of some sort took place on the surface as attendees began arriving from over the grade in search of parking. Even though doing just about anything on a building wall would cause a huge administrative fuss, the discovery of this feature triggered a series of ideas that sought out more alternative but equally charismatic site-specific opportunities. If you orient yourself to the location of the parking structure just adjacent to the Performing Arts Center, we'll find a very interesting space in the building's back service area. I personally find this particular space to be full of character. There's a wall of massive scale enclosing one edge of the space, while along the opposite wall, the service ramp forms a topographic change, leaving in the center a large empty space in the middle. It's an interestingly scaled space that is only bothered to be built because of some specific industrial purpose, which is rare to come upon in the common landscape. Which, on a side note, must be why many modern-day architects and designers are so attracted to post-industrial forms looking to be repurposed. Anyhow, this is what I proposed for a potential entry point into the Performing Arts Center for audience members. The idea is to take advantage of the unusual scale of the wall with a method of display that can take on a wide range of scales, such as a projection. The ramp on the left side must be followed around the perimeter to get to the door of the Performing Arts Center at the far end corner. It's almost as if it had designed itself as a circulation route that forces users along a specific path where patrons would have to pay attention to what was going on in the vast center space. The goals of this conceptual design are to intercept and catch the soon-to-be audience members off guard as they leave their vehicles in the adjacent parking lot and wander to the anticipated performance. If this space was successfully executed and impressed upon the audience the confusion and questions intended to arise, then hopefully a moment between the events of the car and the events of the performance space have just taken place. The proposed concept that I have for the actual performance space inside the pavilion intends on converting the space into a street scene, much like the intimate cafe and bistro settings found throughout Europe. This calls for a change in the format of conventional audience seating, one that differs much from traditional theater spaces. Patrons will be seated at small tables, most likely just large enough to accommodate parties of 2 or 4. The proposal also intends on the arrangement of tables to be such that the weaving in and out and intersection of audience space and performer space is possible during the course of the show. This space should be complemented by the same or similar common amenities that accompany real-life street scenes, such as overhead plane-forming structures like trees and lampposts. But at the same time, pieces of the setting may allude to the real-life amenities and real-life scale rather than accurately representing them. But if you allow me to now step back and rewind to the period in the night where audience members are first beginning to enter the performance space, I'd like to address how I propose that experience to be. As audience members pick up their tickets at will call, they will find that each ticket will have an assigned seat. Audience members will descend into the foyer space by way of the staircase. Then, much like how movie theaters direct you to either head into the left hallway or the right hallway, audience members will have to enter the pavilion through either the left door or the right door. However, once they enter, many patrons will find that their seat is actually on the opposite side of the room than the side that they've entered, so that they will be forced into crossing through the pavilion center in order to reach the assigned seats. But as it turns out, the audience find themselves in an interactive and lively farmers market type scene where audience members are free to walk about and look at artwork on display and buy pre-show snacks from street vendors. To really set the mood, very subtle soundscaping of a crowded street scene will accompany the 200-something audience members to give the impression that there are more people there than there actually are, ideally loosening up the ambiance. Then, All attention is focused onto a single street musician who's begun to perform a piece in the middle of the room. The next thing you know, as audience are still on their feet, watching the musician play, the lights have all turned down, leaving a single spotlit musical scene. The performance has begun. My conceptual explorations with this project so far have produced a number of ideas, all of which show a few recurring themes amongst each other. You'll find that these brainstorms attempt to play with audiences' notions of anticipation by a series of what I call trafficking and interception methods, meaning leading audiences to expect one thing, and as they're headed towards that notion, challenging them with another, or perhaps even surprising them with something expected. They are also a series of methods meant to choreograph emotion. Another recurring theme involves dissolving the physical and intellectual boundaries of where performance begins. Performances may be found in threshold and transitional spaces, and not exclusively within a specific event. The goal is to create spaces between spaces and create moments between moments. That's not right. Damn it. My conceptual explorations with this project so far have produced a number of ideas, all of which show a few recurring themes amongst each other. You'll find that these brainstorms attempt to play with audience moments between events. Moments between events. Moments between events.